Hi everyone, and welcome back to this series of videos about sustainability for business. In this one we're going to be looking at travel and transport, which is quite a large area of sustainability but follows again very similar kind of thought processes. So the first area you're kind of thinking about is how to take away the carbon from your business activity, travel and transport. And an obvious one to kind of start thinking about is looking at electric vehicles for your fleet. Policy is now in place in many places that is going to prevent the sale of petrol and diesel cars. I think in the UK we're looking at 2030 now. So the electric vehicle market is kind of ongoing. There is obviously, as with any increase in technology, there's still an environmental impact of the electric vehicle market in terms of its battery production. But if you can then, this is where we need to be moving towards to actually reduce carbon. So it's not a perfect answer, but it's part of the solution. But we want to be moving away from using just private cars. So particularly useful for thinking about fleet, but when it comes to kind of private individuals, we're really following the data. So the actual number of young people in the UK holding driving licenses is now at its lowest point. And young people are much more switched on to being able to use technology, for example, to maintain kind of remote working and those sort of practices. But the other thing you want to be looking at for your staff is thinking about active travel. And active travel is any kind of transportation that is not a private car. So when you're using public transport or you're cycling or walking, you are taking more activity, and this has knock-on benefits for your physical health. With cyclists, cycling is one of those fantastic activities that also has an impact on your mental health, as long as you're not riding in horrific, congested and polluted areas that are stressful. So the actual benefits of taking more active transport will have a knock-on effect in terms of health benefits for your staff, but then that will be translated into better air quality, less road traffic for your communities as well. So there are dual wins when you're looking at encouraging greater schemes around active transport and active travel. And there's the bicycle to work scheme. You might be able to negotiate discounts with your local travel. So there's lots of little actions that can kind of move this agenda forward. One of the big things, like the kids are all showing us and the pandemic has forced us to do, is actually work remotely, and there are lots of useful information about how to make that successful for your staff and your teams, ensuring some staff will need and enjoy that kind of group setting. We do all like the social life, so there are technologies and ways to think about checking in with particular staff, understanding their different personalities. And obviously one of the big things you've got to think about is safety. I have worked at home and had terrible workstations and suffered for it, and that was my own fault. But do make sure that your staff are looked after and they've got the right kit to actually help them to work at home. And then when you're looking at your targets and evaluations going forward, there are policy drivers that are going to be coming into play. And so if you're monitoring the amount of mileage, you're looking at reducing that mileage, you're looking at electrifying your fleet. Hopefully alongside that you will be decarbonising your energy supply, so that when electric vehicles are actually charging, they are still using no carbon. And then you can think of where the other policy areas come into play as well. So with the Sustainable Development Goals, the UN's produced a whole load of useful resources that will look at one aspect like sustainable transport and consider where it fits within all the different sustainable development goals. And there, from reducing traffic and then having a knock-on effect in the environment and for our communities, to being more efficient and creating resilience going forward. What I haven't touched upon, and I'll probably come back to in later videos, is the use of air transport. Now, frequent flyer business flyers are the the people who are emitting most carbon when it comes to aviation. So if you can reduce the number of flights taken by your business, then you will be having a staggering effect on your overall carbon emissions. And realistically, there are some really strong drivers to do that now in terms of our ability to cope with this pandemic and how we've been able to remote work and meet kind of the aspirations of our business without meeting on a face-to-face basis. So I'll come back to the aviation issue in later videos and hopefully explore it in more detail, and I hope this has been useful, and I look forward to seeing you soon. Thanks.